Dragon is Dead is a roguelite that's released on Steam as an early access title. Now I've invested 14 hours into the game and in that time I've racked up a lot of deaths but have grown wiser. How does it play and more importantly, is it worth your money? Well, stay tuned to find out. When the game begins, you arrive in a town in disarray that's been massacred by demons. These demons have been created by Gurnian, the leader of the Dark Dragons. The world is at the mercy of this godlike being and it's down to you, the successor, to put a stop to his madness. To start, you have access to a double jump, a dash and your melee attack. Your dash has iframes as you'd expect and is on a short cooldown. Killing enemies will give you experience and when you level up, you're rewarded with a skill point. It's at this point you'll have to make some choices about how you want to play and create your build. You can choose from lightning, frost and flame-based magic attacks. The abilities that you choose will be added to your hotbar displayed at the bottom of your screen, which also shows their cooldown period. Now you start off with basic abilities like a melee attack and adding an elemental infusion onto them, all the way up to your ultimate abilities which do big damage and cover more of the screen. You'll need to use your basic attack to build up mana, which is then consumed to use your abilities. There's a ton of player stats which will be affected by your gear, gems, runes and artifacts. Now I won't go into detail about these as we'd be here all day, so I'll touch on them briefly. Gear is dropped by enemies, can be purchased from vendors, but the best gear is dropped by bosses. Gems provide a flat percentage bonus to one of your stats, and artifacts are similar but affect multiple stats and can be tailored more towards your build. Rooms are permanent unlocks received after killing a boss, but we'll touch on these more shortly. Right guys, training wheels are coming off, let's get straight into the gameplay. So each level displays the number of enemies remaining and you can only move on once they're killed. When you start, enemies are a bit of a pushover, their attacking animations have an obvious wind up and you can easily dodge their attacks. The game combines combat with platforming and both are crucial. Avoiding attacks by dodging and jumping to different platforms is an absolute must. Enemies will spawn on you once you've killed their buddies and can easily overwhelm you with multiple attacks. Enemies also have excellent tracking as well as fast moving projectiles, so you need the tools to get out just as well as you can get in. Fortunately, the double jump followed by an air evade are responsive and smooth. Think of it like a Souls game and don't get too greedy. It's not worth the extra attack, but there's a good reason for this. When you die, that's it. You start the game from the beginning. Your artifacts, gems, skills and level progress are completely reset. You do get to keep your weapons, gear, inventory items and currencies. You can use your currencies to buy new gear, retrain your gear abilities and level up your potion flask to have more charges. Let's get one aspect clear, you're going to be dying a lot. Before I continue, I just want to preface by saying I've completed the game and beaten all of the bosses, and yes, it was difficult. One of my monitors nearly went out the window. I got my ass kicked immediately by the first boss and was stuck on him for hours. It does get frustrating knowing that if you die, you must go back to the first few stages again. At this point of the game, you have one potion or two if you got lucky with RNG, but if you took any damage prior to fighting the boss, there's a chance you go in with 0 potions. Add this to the fact that for your first boss, this guy is no pushover. There can be multiple enemies on screen attacking you at once. Projectiles that also cover the screen, blades that slice your up, and tendrils that rise from the ground. At the time I thought this guy was ridiculous, but after fighting the same boss repeatedly, you do get used to the patterns. After a while, I just didn't care about dying, as annoying as it would be. I was more concerned that I'd have to go through several areas and bosses again in the exact same manner. There's no branching paths or alternate areas, and the levels have no variation. This can lead to boredom, or you just trying to rush through enemies to get back to where you were, which never works. This results in the game feeling grindy. Now this is one of the grindiest games that I've played this year. If you get stuck on a boss, you can grind your way to victory, well kind of, by getting better gear and having access to more healing. The reason I say kind of is because whilst you can improve your stats, you still have to kill the bosses. There's several NPCs and vendors that you'll come across. Some NPCs provide quests in the form of killing a boss or delivering an item, but I class these as mandatory as opposed to side content. You'll travel between stages via an overworld map, but you're not able to choose where you go. The route is always the same. After each boss, you'll return to the hub where you can restock on potions and prepare for the next stage. I did find myself playing passively the further on that I progressed because I didn't want to redo everything again, but in the game's current state, it didn't actually take long to get back to the previous boss encounter, especially when bosses drop powerful gear to streamline the process a little bit more. You will eventually gain access to an additional character, the Berserker, whose skills are melee based. I did start another run with the Berserker after finishing the game with the Spellblade. Whilst the class does have some good skills like stacking bleed and high DPS, the lack of range was a big issue. The Spellblade has multiple projectile abilities that travel far, as well as ultimates that cover the entire screen. I think the Spellblade is the better class for this reason, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you're running a good Berserker build that ticks all the boxes, let me know in the comments. Both classes can share their gear, which does reduce the grind, although some weapons are exclusive to each class. Bosses always drop legendary gear, and you also have increased loot chances the further into the run that you get. When you've completed the game, and remember we're still in early access, you unlock Nightmare difficulty. On this difficulty, enemies do 500% more damage, have 300% more life, but they offset this by dropping better loot. To have a chance on this Nightmare mode, you're going to have to grind the out of the game to get the best gear. There were a few issues in the game, so I'm hoping these can be ironed out in the full release. The game would occasionally drop frames, and this was nothing to do with my rig. The map is very basic and would benefit from a makeover. You can't use your ranged attacks in midair, although I'm not sure if this was by design. You can buy more of an item than you can hold, but the game continues to take your currency. The inventory menu would stop functioning with a controller, so you'd have to switch back to using your mouse. I did like the music, and it fits the adventure we're going on perfectly. The game world also looks nice, as well as the sprite work. As of writing, the game has a mixed rating on Steam, with 94 users leaving a review. Many have criticised the controls, saying their inputs weren't coming out or being delayed, whereas others have praised the game's combat as well as the smooth movement. It took me 14 hours to complete the game in its early access form. I paid $19 or £15 for the game, and I'm happy with that price point. The game does have a lot of potential, but in its current state, there's not that much content, but the content that it does have, I did enjoy. If you enjoyed Dead Cells, then I think you're going to have a blast with this one. I do recommend picking the game up, but hopefully this review will help you to make an informed decision. Thank you for stopping by and checking out my review. Leave a like if you enjoyed, comment if you have anything to say, I will reply, and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. You can see all of my socials in my description. That's all I've got, guys. Peace out.